welcome to Reaching the Rest podcast, episode 22. This podcast was inspired by a desire to connect on a deeper level with global workers around the world, to hear the stories of those who have dedicated their lives to fulfilling the Great Commission. My name is Amy Clausen, and I'm the missions director at Bethel's Rock Church in Minnesota. Today, we have the great honor of sitting down with Regan Newhouse, who is ministering in Melanesia. Thank you so much for joining us today, Regan.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, can we just start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a missionary at the Assembly of God World Mission serving in Melanesia in the country of Papua New Guinea. And I recently finished a 2-year missionary associate term. And I'm now going back as a fully appointed career missionary. My primary ministry is in medical evangelism in partnership with church planning. So I'm a nurse, been a nurse for over 8 years, have my bachelor's degree, and did nursing previously before going to the field, obviously. Yeah. And the goal is to use the medical side as a way to partner with church planners, so pastors, local believers, to help open doors in places where people are resistant to the gospel, to help see the church planted.
Yeah. That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about, because it sounds like, you kind of already had a career and then was called to switch directions and to use that thing that you had been doing to, spread the gospel and expand the kingdom. Can you talk us through what that looked like for you?
Yeah, great question. So I actually was called to missions when I was 6 years old, after a missionary visited our church, and I always felt called to maybe minister in an area where people were either resistant to the gospel or they were closed country or something like that. And so I felt God leading me to become a nurse so that I could use that skill as a way to help open doors. And so, that kind of takes a longer path than I guess maybe than some others, because you have nursing school, and then you have to work for a few years as a nurse before you really know what you're doing, I would say. And so that was part of that. And then I was looking for a place to go, and I found in Melanesia that we have used medical ministries and seen it be truly effective to help plant the church. And so when I heard about what they were already doing or had done in the past, I felt like, this is a great fit for how I felt God was leading me. And so, in the past, we've used medical ministries, either short-term teams or clinics that are in remote areas to help build those relationships. They've actually, the clinics have helped resulted in invitations to communities that were previously completely closed to outsiders. So no pastor could go in to share the gospel there. No missionary could go in. But through those medical teams, the doors were opened. And then because of that, we now have churches in places we never had churches before.
That's so cool.
And so, so I was originally actually supposed to go run a clinic in Vanuatu, which is also in Melanesia. Okay. But that was in 2020. The doors closed for that opportunity. And so I kind of shifted gears to Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, for a lot of people, we have a lot of people on our team who are in previous careers, especially older people who have retired completely from their career and are now really shifting gears, learning an entirely new thing, new skill, right? And are on the field. So we have other nurses, other skilled workers. And I think really in Melanesia, across the Pacific, really, we've seen ways to use those skills to help share the gospel. And so we're always eager for more people who feel that maybe that's them.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible that you felt that from a young age and that you really took that to heart and you were like, okay, practically what do I need to do? Okay, I need to get these skills because that's how I'm going to spread the gospel. That's amazing that you just were able to stay true to course. It sounds like, you were trying to go in 2020 and things didn't work out. Can you tell us a little bit more about, were there steps along the way that either barriers came or different things kind of maybe tried to get in the way of that call?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, COVID was a huge thing for really across the board missionaries around the world, and for us at home, obviously impacted everyone, but a lot of missionaries were sent home. A lot of countries weren't giving visas, which was our case, and that was for a couple of years. So I didn't leave for the field until November of 2022. Um, So 2 full years, I was like waiting. I was fully approved to go. Everything was
Yeah,
done. And so that was really challenging, frustrating, right? Like anything else.
right.
And so that was hard, but and then also switching to Papua New Guinea, it's a similar cultural group. So they're still Melanesian people, which is the cultural group like Polynesians,
Mm-hmm.
which people are a bit more familiar with.
Yeah,
Um, but the landscape of the country, the politics is very different in Papua New Guinea. And also what I was going to be doing changed quite a bit. So I was going to be running a clinic
okay.
in the bush, and then moved to Papua New Guinea where healthcare ministries are brand new for us. So
Wow.
we didn't have anything set up.
Yeah,
We had to figure out how to get licensed and all these logistical things. And
yeah,
so it was a big shift. But just I just try to, follow God's leading, and He
yeah.
knows, right? And it's all in His plan that we
Mm-hmm.
don't understand. So,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Now you've alluded to, that being able to provide these services really just opens doors that previously it sounds like there were, attempts and different strategies of trying to get to places and they just weren't working. Do you have any stories that you can share with us, like specifically of, here's what happened, or here's a person who, received a service and then they had influence in the community? Like, can you share any specifics about how this has been taking place?
Yeah. Yeah. So, that story I was kind of alluding to before is actually from in Vanuatu
Mm.
on an island called Pentecost Island.
Wow.
Um, on Pentecost Island, there was basically no Christian churches. Um, and so our teams like some local pastors, I think, had tried to go in and maybe plant churches. The missionaries had kind of tried some things, but like they were getting a lot of resistance. In fact, I
Yeah.
think maybe a church was even burned down in the
Mm.
process. Um, in all of Melanesia, the tribes are they're very like a tribal system. Like their
Yeah.
little tribe is their world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else is an outsider.
Yeah.
And so it's not really like a country mindset like we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so an outsider could be someone from your country, but if they're not from your tribe,
Yeah.
they're an outsider, right?
Right.
And so even like local pastors, they had not been successful to plant any churches
Mm.
on that island, that whole island, which I mean, it's a small island, but still the whole island.
Right.
Um, and so they did various projects over a course of actually 10 years, so a
Hmm.
long time.
Yeah.
But they included healthcare teams that came in and did short clinics. With those, we pray with patients. We do normally some evangelism. It's a big team when it comes. There's
Mm-hmm.
healthcare workers, there's missionaries, there's local pastors that come help and pray with
Yeah.
people and talk to people. But then they also had do some water projects. That's a big
Hmm.
part of our ministry in the
Okay.
Pacific is water projects.
Yeah.
And then also we have a couple that does setting up schools in bush areas. So a lot of
Mm.
kids have to be sent to boarding school if they want to go to
Okay.
school.
Yeah.
So that could be on another island away from their family.
Mm-hmm.
And so they help set up K-12 type schools. And so through that, really after like one big clinic, even the missionary that was leading that group, he was invited by a chief to come to their village and share. And when he went to
Wow.
that village, it was the first time really an outsider had been in that village.
Wow.
He shared the gospel for the first time. No one in that village had ever heard before.
Yeah.
But because of all of these cumulative efforts,
Mm-hmm.
now we have multiple churches there. I don't remember the exact number, but it's over 5. And we have multiple schools. I think we have like 8 schools. We did
Yeah.
have a clinic. It actually was destroyed
Oh
by
no.
tsunami though.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so, but because of that, I mean, really, remarkable things. A place that had no churches that now has churches. People are
Yeah.
hearing about Jesus. Young kids are hearing about Jesus as they go to school. And so, um, yeah, really saw that be effective there. And so, and that was in Vanuatu.
Yeah.
But that's kind of our hope for Papua New Guinea. We're new doing it there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to do an outreach with my team right before I left, actually. Um, and we went out to a community where pastors have been working to plant a church. Everything is very remote. We had to take a
Yeah.
boat to get there. And the people there, have a clinic, but they hadn't had medicine for over 3 months.
Hmm.
That is normal in Papua New Guinea,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so we saw 150 patients. We had like a big team
Mm-hmm.
with us, like pastors, Bible school students. So they prayed with everyone. We did an evangelism service. But those pastors that are like have been working on doing that effort of that church planting effort,
Mm-hmm.
were with us, and they continue to go, right, to help
Wow.
plant that church. So our hope is that, through the medical piece, really it's a tool to help build that
Mm-hmm.
relationship, to show Christ's love in a tangible way. And open doors as
Yeah.
well. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah.
That's great. So you have experience, doing at least similar things in the medical field in the US and then now overseas in Papua New Guinea, in Melanesia. What are some of the similarities that you've noticed just with even just like kind of that patient care, like that relationship between like the medical professional and the person? I would assume that there are some differences with like, the medical care that is needed, but can you tell us a little bit about just kind of comparing those two different experiences for you?
Yeah. I think, medical and like doing nursing, is just a great way to connect with people
Mm-hmm.
on a deeper level. And I experienced this, previously in America. I worked as an
Yeah.
oncology nurse,
Oh, wow.
in an inpatient hospital setting.
Hmm.
So, I spent a lot of time with people who were going through extremely difficult
Yeah.
things, help people's hand, prayed with them before they died.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, people really open up to you when they're in
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of
Right.
situations,
Yep.
right? And so you just have a lot of incredible opportunities to share Christ with people. And
Mm-hmm.
and I would say the same thing applies, in Papua New Guinea,
Yeah.
right? When I'm having these outpatient clinics, even if I only get a few minutes with them, I stop and pray with them. I get to encourage them. And yeah, when people are vulnerable, right? When they're
Mm-hmm.
sick, and so I think they're more open and willing to
Mm-hmm.
connect with you, and they feel connected with you
Yeah.
because you're giving them care, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a different way
Right.
than they would with just, I don't know, someone else. So,
Mm-hmm.
that is like really a huge benefit, especially when, you want to do like that one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
evangelism or discipleship, right?
Yeah.
Or a small group, right? Instead of like, it's different than doing a big crusade, right? Where you have
Yeah.
thousands of people in front of you. It's a different thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd say, that's where I excel, is in
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
small one-to-one. And the nursing really helps with that,
Mm-hmm.
and um, sets up the situation for
Yeah.
you, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you talked about how just these like medical programs in general have really opened the doors to gain access to new places. And that has been really like amazing fruit from the things that you and your team do to kind of, open doors and pave the way for new churches and ministers and people to go. But do you have any stories you can share with us of, times that you've been able to like be the person that has shared Jesus or been able to pray with somebody or seen, even transformation in the short amount of time that you are being able to be face to face with people?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to do a lot of medical,
Mm.
while I was there,
Okay.
even though that's my main thing. Just like logistically wise, it took us over a year to be licensed, so I couldn't
Okay.
legally practice
Sure.
for my whole first year. But our main focus as new missionaries is learning the language and
Yep.
culture in that first year anyways. And
Yeah.
so it kind of was okay. But I did get some great opportunities. When I trained in a hospital for a short amount of time.
Mm.
And so able to pray with people there. I would say being able to see like a transition or growth
Mm-hmm.
happened more outside of the medical, actually, just for me
Okay.
in this last term.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was able to start a youth group in the village I lived
Oh,
in.
wow.
And so every week met with kids, youth,
Mm-hmm.
for over a year, and was able to, study God's word with them.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I saw multiple kids get baptized,
Wow.
and commit their lives to God. And so that was like really the place where I got to see, I guess, like growth, right?
Yeah.
Because these other people I saw once and I didn't
Right.
see them again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you don't really know, like,
Yeah.
you don't know the result of
Mm-hmm.
if you right, like the impact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like when I was ministering with those youth, I really did get to see their growth
Mm.
um, in their relationship with God,
Yeah.
people committing their lives to serving Christ. And
Yeah.
so that was a great opportunity for me. And that was like something I did. I did lots of different random things, which is
Sure.
pretty normal for missionaries.
Yeah.
But that was like one thing. It was really my favorite thing every
Mm.
week, meeting with the youth. So
Yeah. Wow. And so, like where you had your youth group, was that kind of a different type of setting than like these kind of like remote tribes that you would go for the medical? Okay.
yes, yeah. So we lived in a village outside of one of the major cities
Okay.
called Mount Hagen, and so we lived just 4 or 5 miles outside of the city,
Mm-hmm.
in a smaller village, and so
Yeah.
that's where I did the youth group, and that's kind of our base. So
Mm-hmm.
I was actually serving under missionaries who their primary ministry is pastoral development and Bible school ministry.
Oh, wow.
They were the only ones who've been in Papua New Guinea. They've been there by themselves
Wow.
until I came, and my other partners who do medical as well were coming. And so I did a lot of projects partnering with them, but
Yeah.
they have to live in that location to be able to get around to different Bible schools. So we weren't
Sure.
in a remote location where
Sure.
we lived.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Wow. So, and maybe you said this before and I kind of missed it, but so this whole like medical missions, or using medical care like as an avenue for the gospel is fairly new. Then it's is what I'm understanding, that like you and your team, when you just were there, over the last couple of years, was really the start of this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
For Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So those other stories were from things in Vanuatu, but we
Mm-hmm.
actually don't have any medical people there right now.
Okay.
Um, from since the COVID and all
Sure.
those
Sure.
things
Sure.
and the challenges that have occurred there. Yeah, so brand new. So we both had to get licensed. I work with Amy, who's a nurse practitioner. We both had to get licensed there. You have to have like different government documents.
Yeah.
You have to like show the locals that like this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to catch the vision too,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you
Mm-hmm.
want them to be a part of it, which we do, we want
Yeah.
a partner. And so I do think that, we were able to accomplish a lot of the hard first things while we were
Yes.
there. And so we'll both be going back,
Okay.
hopefully next year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like a great jumping point, right?
Mm-hmm.
To jump off and do a lot of things. The local church has actually been given a few clinics by the government as well. They're excited. They want to use them as evangelism tools, partnering
Yeah.
with churches that are like beside them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be helping with that as well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
some logistical things. Obviously not like running them all,
Sure.
but helping the locals that are, working in those clinics, and
Yeah.
yeah, wanting to use them to help not just run a clinic. Like you can just run a clinic, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
just get medicine.
Right.
But you can also use them as evangelism tools, sharing
Mm-hmm.
the gospel, and there are great ways to do that. So that's what we
Absolutely.
want to do with these clinics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now, you just kind of mentioned like what you were able to do the last couple of years was really laying the groundwork to make, this opportunity for access be able to happen kind of in your next term. And you were talking about these kind of programs or ministry opportunities that have happened in different places is kind of what you're modeling after. And you weren't there, so not that you can directly compare, but from the stories that you heard about how things went in other places that use medical missions, how could you compare kind of the receptiveness in Papua New Guinea? Did it seem like it was a similar story with like how they got started and how things were starting to work with you guys, or was it different kind of based on the different culture or just different, I don't know, thoughts, ideas, beliefs of the specific people that you're working with?
Yeah, I think this is just my opinion, mind you, but
Yeah.
I think things could go a lot faster in Papua New Guinea.
Cool.
Like I shared you that it was like a 10-year period,
Yeah.
which is not unusual
Sure.
in missions. They say most things for it to really to jump off and be like seeing that big growth, it takes 10 years.
Yeah.
But I do think Papua New Guinea it's gonna be faster.
Yeah.
It's a bigger, they have a stronger local church that's already established. There have been pastors in the past who are really working hard on church planning. I would say most of those are aging though. And so the hope is that we really inspire and invigorate the younger people to really take that baton, and be a part of this. And in some areas, like as we were just starting to talk about medical, as we came, the locals were already grabbing hold of that. Like, what can we do? How can we be a part of this?
Wow.
So I think in some of our regions, we have 5 regions, some it's going to go it could go fast. I think that we could see a lot happen in the next few years. And so other areas might be harder than some regions I think might be harder than others, but we have a few regions in Papua New Guinea that are pretty strong with our church. The first region that the original missionaries went to plant the Assembly of God Church is very strong.
Okay.
So they could potentially be great senders to their other regions to then see those regions grow as they have, right? And so that's really our hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also I think we have less of the villages that are really, really secluded to outsiders than Vanuatu does.
Sure.
I could be wrong about that, but it seems like I think more in Papua New Guinea is that we have churches that have taken over areas, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. They kind of have like areas where it's like there's only Catholics here in this whole area.
Yeah.
No other church, right?
Yep.
There's just Seventh-day Adventists in this area. There's just Lutherans in this area. The hard thing with Papua New Guinea is if you look at them online, it'll actually say it's a Christian nation. It says it's over 90%.
Sure.
But it's actually one of the most violent nations in the world to live.
Interesting.
So contrasting that picture, like I share that because, I don't think it's a Christian nation.
Sure.
So you have all these churches that are claiming to be following Jesus, but they're not, right?
Yeah.
And so our hope then is that we can break into these areas where maybe you have a church, but if they're not preaching the gospel, then we're going to try to plant a church there, right? And so that's kind of the picture in Papua New Guinea. That's a bit different than I would say like Vanuatu.
Sure.
They might just have no church there, but we might have a church, but it's just not even preaching the gospel. They're solely preaching the law. And religion. And so then because of that, we don't see lives transformed and changed. And so we're going to target those areas and we're going to try to plant a church there. And it can be hard then to plant in those areas because they kind of have like ownership. They'll be like, well, the Catholics own this area, which is not, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of the challenge there. So it's a bit different, but
wow. That's incredible. I mean, I really kind of see you and I think you said the one other person that's kind of going over at a similar time frame for medical. Like, you guys are really kind of pioneers in this area. That's, crazy to me that there's just been this one family that's been there for a while, and now you're the first people to join them. So what is your take on how they received that? Like, when they are now finally getting some support and some people to say, hey, we want to come alongside you. We want to, not even necessarily just help you in what you're doing, but we want to, bring this on a different level and different scale of just this overall vision of utilizing the local church to be able to spread the gospel and coming up with these, strategic and different ways to reach new people that maybe over the course of the time that you've been here, you haven't been able to, doors just haven't been opened. What was that like? Like, what has that partnership been like between you and the missionaries that have been there for a little while?
They were so excited. Yeah, they were so excited. I think they were praying for a long time.
Yeah.
They were there for over 10 years by themselves.
Wow.
I think they would have loved to have teammates the whole time.
Sure, of course.
And yeah, and I think the local church as well. I mean, we are praying for 22 more missionary units in Papua New Guinea. It's like a lot.
Yeah.
And the local church, they're asking, right? They're asking for these people to come. It's not like we're just trying to force our ideas on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no, they specifically had asked actually for medical people to come. And so that's just one piece. We have like 5 key ministry areas across the Pacific that we focus on. And so that's what we built our teams around then. And so it's community development. So that can be medical schools, teen challenge. It could be lots of things, right? Water projects. We have pastoral development, youth ministry, children's ministry, and church planting. And so those are our 5 key areas. And so, the Rojacks that had been there for a long time, they were focusing on pastoral development, which is a huge need. If your pastors don't know how to preach the word, you're not going to have people discipled, right?
Yeah,
so it's massive anywhere. It's so important. And so they were focused on that and helping our Bible schools be healthy, improve, and helping those pastors be equipped for the work they're doing. But yeah, they were excited to have people doing other things as well and just have partners. And so it was great coming there, having people who were experienced, who could teach us, train. I directly was working under them, and it was just an incredible, really, opportunity for me to learn from someone who's been in ministry. They've actually been missionaries for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
They served in Vanuatu as well.
Okay.
And so, wealth of knowledge, right? So it was really just wonderful. They're actually kind of nearing a transition. They are not going to be basing in Papua New Guinea this next term.
Okay.
They're still going to be serving, but not basing there, just because of their age.
Sure.
But so we'll still have them as part of our team, but it will be sad to not have them on the field with us. But, all the time. They'll be there some of the time.
Sure.
But, not full time.
So what does that look like for you going back? You mentioned the one other girl, I think that it was, and that, obviously you want a lot more missionaries to be going, but at this point in time, like, what does that look like as you're thinking about going back in a year or so? What is, like, show us that picture.
Yeah. Previously, we all did base in the same place for the first year, and then that other family, the Julians, they had actually moved to another region.
Okay.
Going back, I am not planning on returning to the place we lived previously. It's actually the most dangerous part of the country.
Oh, wow.
So we have a lot of tribal wars Women are targeted often. A lot of stealing and just like a lot of crime. Rioting is very common. If there's like any government issue, there will be like massive riots. And that really happens in any city, but the area I lived in is known as the most dangerous part. So returning, my coworkers will not be living there, so I am not planning on living there.
It's probably wise.
I actually, because it would be it was already pretty hard for me as a single being there, a single woman. I had a lot of challenges, and it would probably just be too hard for me to be by myself there. And so I don't exactly know where I'm going to be. I have some thoughts and ideas, but those don't always pan out. But I'm hoping to be living in an area where some of the pastors are already working on some medical things. They have some clinics, and they've actually requested that I come and live there with them and help. And that is my plan. Hope. But we'll see. Because and then because we're such a small team, we do travel around the country as well. But you can't do it all the time. It's very expensive to travel around in Papua New Guinea. There are very few roads that connect places. In fact, our capital doesn't connect to the rest of the country.
Interesting.
There's no road. So you have to take a plane to get to most places. And that's expensive. So so we don't travel a lot, but we do some to kind of because everybody wants you to come and do something, but that doesn't always work. So
and when you are talking about these pastors that have asked you to come live, you're talking about local pastors, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So it sounds...
So they have a local leadership structure, just like we do here in the Assembly of God. So they have a superintendent and regional leaders, and and we work with them. They're actually how we get our visas, everything. It's all through them. So always working with the local church.
You mentioned some different challenges that you had your last term, just maybe being a single person or maybe being a single woman. Can you talk a little bit more about that and maybe how has that kind of impacted your call, or just how ministry has worked for you? The biggest challenge for me is in Papua New Guinea, if you're not married, you're actually considered a child, no matter your age. And so I'm 32 years old, but I'm considered a child in Papua New Guinea. And that was challenging for many reasons. I came from like being respected in my field. I was in a position of leadership, etc., right? All these things, to like being a child. So definitely it was challenging to adapt to. But with that, I would say a lot of doors were opened for me really to minister with children and youth, because on some level I'm like their peer, right? So they open up to me in a way they do not to adults. And I would say children are very, very reserved in Papua New Guinea. They'd be like the shy kid in America is like most of the kids there if they're in an adult setting. When they're on their own, they're vibrant and but they're just taught to really be quiet. That children are on a very different level, and so because of that, it opened those doors when I did that youth ministry, when I did some other children's outreaches, that the kids really opened up to me. And so that was really special and just a great opportunity, but a challenge also, right? There's many challenges with coming. I get some level of respect because I'm a missionary and I'm a nurse, but people still view me as a child. So, and so that is challenging in working with leadership. But I'm grateful I have a good team, and so they kind of intervene in those areas where I would need to have a voice. They're really my voice for me, because I don't have a place at the table a lot of times. And so that's challenging because that's not our world in America, right? So. But there's also a lot of challenges with where I lived with it not being very safe. I couldn't take a taxi or a bus unless I had like a group of locals with me. And so had a hard time getting around until I got a vehicle, and then it was better. But you have to do a lot of safety things, be concerned about.
So those are
Yeah.
all challenges, but God uses that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, something I had really thought about was, I was considering maybe going to a different country in
Mm.
Melanesia when I returned,
Sure.
which we had talked about, and because they are safer.
Mm.
Vanuatu is like on the scale, like USA, Vanuatu, they're a 1, and
Okay.
Papua New Guinea is a 3. It's the
Hmm.
most dangerous.
Okay.
Um, so Vanuatu, in those respects, would be a lot easier for me to
Mm-hmm.
live there. But I really felt like, no, God was calling me to be here, to live in Papua New
Wow.
Guinea, even though it's challenging. The places where we need missionaries, where we need to plant churches, are often these
Mm-hmm.
hard places,
Yep.
right? Because there are not Christians there.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt, I'm committed to be where God's called me to be, even though it's hard, and He'll protect me. He always does. So, um,
Wow. It's so inspiring just to talk to you. I mean, it's so obvious your call and your dedication to the call and just your passion for what you're doing and for what God has just placed in your heart. And that was something that I was kind of alluding to earlier, just when you were talking about, from such a young age that you just knew. You were so confident. You have such a confidence about what God is asking you to do. And you have such a drive, I can tell, to pursue that at all costs. Can you tell us more about that? Like what, I mean, obviously, the Lord sustains you and the Holy Spirit, but like, have there been different just experiences or moments in your life or specific things that kind of help to fuel that passion and fuel that drive that you have? Because I mean, not everybody has it, but it's so evident talking to you. So yeah, what can you tell
yeah,
us? What can you share with us about that?
yeah. Well, a few things, when I was called when I was 6, like I still remember that. It was a very like vivid experience for
Mm-hmm.
me, and felt very real. And I'd say like my parents also like affirmed it,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're
That's
believers as
cool.
well, and they love missions. They love missionaries. They aren't in ministry themselves, but
Mm-hmm.
they're believers, and so they encouraged that in me. And I'd read missionary stories and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things as I grew up. I would talk to missionaries, read their newsletters, pray for them every night, and so God. So that like connection, helps grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had like other experiences that God like I felt like God was just reaffirming that call
Mm-hmm.
multiple times in my life. Like when I was in youth group, I think I was at church camp, and
Mm-hmm.
God gave me like a vision
Mm-hmm.
um, of me on the mission field.
Yeah.
And um, when I was trying to decide about like nursing, I
Mm-hmm.
really felt like God spoke to me through some books
Mm-hmm.
about, how He could use that. And then also on a short term mission trip, just
Mm-hmm.
the needs and how, um, you know, through medicine you can minister to people and show Christ's
Mm-hmm.
love. And so I really felt like God spoke to me, through various things throughout my life.
Yeah.
And so that's helped, keep that call strong and my
Yeah.
confidence in my call. Because there certainly have been people who've been dissenters, right?
Mm.
Especially being a woman,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I mean, in the Assembly God, we believe in women ministers,
Mm-hmm.
and we encourage them,
Yeah.
but you're always going to find someone who's going to
Mm.
say, well, you can't be a missionary because you're a woman, or
Mm.
you can't be a pastor because you're a woman, or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I was like very confident. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can. God told me. So what do you
Right.
know? So,
Yeah, definitely.
um, but in the history of the world, there's been more women in missions
Hmm.
across the board for any organization,
Wow.
really, than there have been men. There's a lot of single women who've served as missionaries,
Mm-hmm.
who've made huge
Yeah.
impacts on the world at large. And so, women have been doing it for a long time. I'm not the
Mm-hmm.
first.
Yeah.
I won't be the last.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's encouraging to read stories of other women who've gone before me,
Yeah.
and went into hard places,
Yep.
right? Who were really, a lot of single women have went into very, very hard places to
Wow.
share the gospel, who have pioneered really by themselves or with another single lady
Yeah.
in hard, hard places. And
Yeah.
so I'm not alone in that.
Yeah,
So that's,
definitely.
I know, to me, that's like very encouraging. So
Yeah, that's cool. So, you know, you really have been like kind of training and preparing your whole life for this. And so I'm sure with that, like you had a lot of, whether it was, you know, something you kind of realized or maybe, or not, but some expectations or assumptions or a picture or an idea of what missions was going to look like for you, or maybe what ministry in this specific country or this specific context was going to look like for you. Did once you got on the field, you know, your couple of years over there, was it what you were expecting? And in what ways, you know, maybe you're like, yeah, like this is what, you know, I knew it was going to be like, and it was. And in what ways were you maybe kind of surprised by different things?
yeah, I think for almost everyone, it's not what you expect, or you don't end up doing what you intended,
Sure.
right? And that, I think that happens to almost every missionary. Like I talked to other senior missionaries, and I itinerated this whole time, told everyone I was going to do this. That's not what happened. God opened a different door,
Yep.
right? And so
Yep.
that's pretty normal. So I knew that, you know, I originally was going to Vanuatu to run a clinic. I
Okay.
itinerated my whole time telling people that. And then I
Yeah.
went to Papua New Guinea. I didn't run a clinic.
Yeah.
So there was already like so many unexpected things that happened that I think once I knew I was going to Papua New Guinea, I was there. Didn't have too many ideas because I was like, well, nothing's worked out anyways. But some things were, I guess, maybe harder than I'd expected. Like
Sure.
I knew that I'd be considered a child and how that would impact relationships. But in some ways, it was much harder than I'd expected. And so that was a challenge. The area I lived in, we lived in the middle of 2 tribal wars while I was there.
Wow.
So that was hard, and that really limited our mobility. We couldn't walk around where we lived because it wasn't safe. So that was hard. That was like, I had an expectation that we were going to be able to walk around, chat with people, play with kids. And then for over 6 months, all the children were sent away from our village to live somewhere else because it wasn't safe for them.
Wow.
Yeah, women left, and we couldn't like leave our gates. There was like a solid month where we didn't really leave our house.
Wow.
Because it was so unsafe.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. And I knew it was like a dangerous place, but I didn't quite, you know, like I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was probably one of our biggest challenges. Also just seeing there was some pretty horrific things that happened to women in my village that I knew, friends. And that was hard.
Yeah.
And there's really no like justice for women in places like this in the world.
Sure.
You know, things happen and there's no like consequence. Like we expect a consequence or justice to happen, right? I mean, that's like our idea.
Yeah.
And that's not the picture there. And so that was a challenge to overcome in my own heart, but also, you know, to pray for those people, both the victims, but also the ones that had done the harm, you know, that God would get to them, that they would repent for their sin and turn to Him. So that was a challenge for sure.
What would you say that your first couple of years on the field, how do you see that they have changed you, like your relationship with the Lord, your walk with the Lord, your understanding of, you know, I'm sure very small understanding, but understanding of how He can work in people, how He is working in ways that we don't always see or recognize or realize. What are some of the lessons that you learned and how you personally kind of have changed and grown since you've been able to spend some time on the field?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is to like my reliance upon God. I didn't really have anyone else to rely on. Like I had my
Yeah.
teammates, obviously, but for the beginning time, they were all strangers to me.
Mm.
And I actually lived with a family for my first year and like moved in. We were basically strangers. Um, bless them for allowing me to live with them. But yeah, very isolating, right?
Mm.
And then had a really hard time making friends because of my status as a child.
Yep.
All the women my age are married and have kids.
Okay.
So they don't see me as an equal.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard to make friends. So some very isolating things, but through that, you learn to rely on God, right?
Yeah.
Because He is all you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, God really has grown in me, that reliance on Him. Through that, like tribal word, God gave us all, my whole team, like just incredible peace that I've never experienced to that level in my life.
Yeah.
And so that was really incredible. We've all felt confident to stay where we were, to continue ministering to our community, and encouraging the people we lived with. And I know it impacted especially the women that lived in our area, but also we have a pastor that lives like right next to us. And so he felt so encouraged. He was going to like flee as well. And he decided to stay because we stayed. And so, like through that, just seeing, even just how like continuing to be somewhere and live out how Christ wants us to live can make a huge impact on people.
Yeah.
Was incredible. But yeah, God has grown me so much. Just learning about culture, about maybe the faults in our own culture and my own culture, the things that we value that are maybe not biblical. Because you see it's so contrasted. The culture there is like the opposite of America in like every way it's different.
Yeah.
So very hard to learn and understand, but also you see these great things that they have in their culture that really we're missing. That are godly things, biblical things, that we really fall short on. Like caring for your community, for example, like they're a community group culture. We're individualistic. We think about ourselves. We can be very selfish, even when we don't want to be. It's just like it's in our culture, right? It's like our way. And they're like so the opposite. They don't even think about like they don't have to think about like if they would care for their neighbor or give them food or clothes or whatever they need. It's just the automatic response every time, and so seeing like that played out and just how, the beautiful things in their culture that are really biblical things and how that contrasts with maybe the way I live that are maybe not so biblical. And, so God challenges those things when you live or visit a culture different than your own. And so, that was really incredible, and growing thing for me. So,
so I don't know that you necessarily said that this was the case, but I'm making an assumption that probably before you were on the field, you most likely were involved in some form of ministry or at least a church, and so then relationships that you were having through that. And so what would you say are maybe some differences with even just interacting with people from Papua New Guinea and talking about the Lord, maybe even just other believers, kind of talking a little bit more about the culture piece that you were just referring to, like how are conversations maybe different? How are connections different, relationships different than what you've experienced personally and in ministry back in the United States?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'd say like in a church environment or a village environment, everyone is related. And so there's very much a family feel because, I mean, really, they probably are all related, like distant aunties, something, because they live in their traditional, like where they've always lived, their
Yeah.
family. And so you definitely sense that when you're in a place
Mm-hmm.
that that community piece, that group piece, that they're coming together. The church, does ministry where they go to the hospital and bring food for people. Because in our hospital, they're not fed when they're there.
Hmm.
Family has to bring in food.
Yeah.
So which that's not normal America,
Right.
but is there.
Yeah.
So that's like a big ministry, like
Mm-hmm.
caring for people. And I'd say we have those aspects in America.
Sure.
Especially, I grew up in a church. I was in the same church my whole life,
Mm.
and I would definitely say like um, that I have people that feel like family to me,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
in the church. And so I'd say we have a part of that, but maybe not just on the same level,
Sure.
right? Because really, we don't live around our churches for the most part. Most
Mm-hmm.
people, like I don't live close to my church.
Yeah.
It's not far, but I don't live like walking distance from my
Yeah.
church, right? They
Right.
all live walking distance from their
Hmm.
church. And so it is different,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's a challenge in America that we have to face is that you have these people from different places. How do we create community
Yeah.
when we maybe only see each other once a week?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a challenge for us. Whereas
Yeah.
for them, it's not. They see each other all day long, every day,
Yep.
or in passing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a positive, but also it's not that. I think it's just a challenge in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of our different
Yeah.
way we do things is just different. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something you really notice. Yeah, and then that that caring for each other is really
Mm-hmm.
evident. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing the needs of each other,
Yeah.
and also you really notice that people, if they're going through struggles, they're probably going through as a group as well. So if there's like a depth in the community, that's impacting everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't necessarily see that in our church, right?
Sure.
And so then as a pastor too, you have these great opportunities to preach to something that really is impacting everyone, which
Yeah.
on some level would be the same in
Mm.
America. But so I'm just like thinking of one instance where a leader in the community died that was really impacting everyone,
Yeah.
right? And I was even able to preach during that time and preach on suffering
Yeah.
and on Christ's love for us. And
Mm.
so you can really see just the difference in that, what church kind of looks like
Yeah.
when it's like very community-based
Mm-hmm.
church versus a church that's impacting a larger area, people spread out, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
That's cool.
just different.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked about, some different things that you're going to be coming back to when you get back over to Papua New Guinea. Obviously, going back to a different place and maybe in some ways feeling a little bit more connected to the local church with literally like living with some of the local pastors. And then really being able to pick up where you left off with the medical missions opportunities and being able to go to the next level with those kinds of things. I don't know, with you going back to a different place, if you're still going to be able to connect with that youth group that you had started when you were there before. But I know just talking about what you had done in your first term, it sounds like you kind of had, a hand in a lot of different things. And so when you're looking forward to, okay, what does this next term look like? Or what am I wanting to accomplish in this next term? Or what am I excited about? What kind of things come to mind? Like, what are you like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running, like, this, and this, and like, here's where I'm going to start in this area. Here's where I'm going to start in this area. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, when I return, I'll have to find a place to live. That'll be like my first thing. Yeah. And like a vehicle and some of those logistical things. So that will probably take the first little bit to get settled in and like buying stuff. So that will be like the very beginning, but I'm, hoping to really connect with where those clinics are and like helping with some of those things, but then eventually setting up doing like regular outreaches where I'm going out with other teams, going out to do these more remote outreaches as well. So the hope would be that that's on a daily thing, right? But you have like these trips planned. So yeah, hoping my prayer is that I can find a place to live that's in close community with a local pastor or
Yeah.
family in the church. And then, yeah, I won't be living near my old youth group or
Mm-hmm.
anything, so that will be sad.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will travel there at some point,
Sure.
um, but I am hoping, I'm sure, that I will get involved in something of that nature.
Yeah.
It's pretty like natural and easy,
Mm-hmm.
just from my position and everything, to
Right.
get involved in like children or youth pretty
Mm-hmm.
quickly and easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I anticipate that in some nature. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what that will look like,
Yeah.
but um, even when you just live a place, the kids kind of flock around. So it doesn't take long
Yeah.
to have something with the kids. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but there will be a lot of just logistical things right when I
Mm-hmm.
get there. I have visited the area, and I know like leaders and people in the area
Mm-hmm.
already. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's all brand new.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and let me ask you all my questions and just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your call and your ministry and Papua New Guinea. I've just really enjoyed getting to talk with you and just seeing how on fire you are, and how excited you are to like get back as quickly as possible, and really just continue to like pursue wholeheartedly this dream and this calling that God has had on you from a young age. And it's so incredible that you really, it sounds like, have just stayed the course and just really been in relationship and in communication with God every step of the way about, what is it that you have for me, and like, I'll do it, and I trust you, and that you're going to make a way because this is your plan and not mine. And so it really is just such an honor and a privilege to be able to partner with you, to be able to support you. And I look forward to staying in touch and finding out, what does happen when you get back, and both with you and with just the entire people of Papua New Guinea, and just how these different ministries and opportunities really just start to transform those communities.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and it's been great talking with you. And I'm so appreciative of the church and just their both financial support, but the prayers as well. As I'm returning, and for Papua New Guinea, so they need your prayers there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so thankful for all that you do.
Yeah.